All right, welcome back to this second segment of KUTV News at 9 on this day, Thursday, the 6th of March 2025. And now, right about now, it's time for that discussion that we have just talked about some few seconds ago. Now, tonight we are delving into the issue of work and mental health. And joining us tonight online or via Zoom is Dr. Chitai, who is a consultant psychiatrist. Dr. Chitai, welcome on board and welcome to KUTV Primetime News on this day, the 6th of March. I hope you had a fantastic day, just as we did right here.
Thank you. I had a good day. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Daktari. Welcome on board tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Quick to it, Daktari, this is a conversation that a lot of people have been waiting for. And maybe a lot of people just want to know, to start us off, is there something like an ideal job or an ideal place of work, Dr. Chitai? Because you'll get your favorite lawyer says they wish they would have done better when they were a doctor, or your favorite doctor says they would have done better when they were an engineer. So help us understand tonight, is there something like an ideal job or an ideal place of work?
I like that. It's the paradox of the road not taken. So usually when a human being makes a decision about a career, there's always the thought that what if I had taken the other road? You remember the poem where somebody comes to a crossroad and they take one path and they leave the other. So as they go on their way, they often think about what was on the other one, the other side. Could it have been better? So that is the paradox of the road not taken. That's what affects many people. However, looking at work, what is important is understanding the role of work in mental health as so important that, in fact, in the very definition of mental health, work is part of that definition. So we define mental health as a person's well-being um, that enables them to cope with stresses in life, enables them to work, realize their potential, and contribute to the community. So work is extremely important. Work not only helps people to get income, which is extremely important, but also gives them a sense of status. So every time when you ask somebody who you are, a lot of times they first start by giving their profession. It helps people to connect with the others at the workplace, and then also helps them to be occupied. One of the greatest disasters, even in our time, and in many places, is the disaster of the problem of idleness. So if you keep somebody and give them everything they need and keep them in a house from morning to evening, sooner or later they will their mental health will may break down. So work helps with all those things, including also contributing to the society and giving someone a sense of accomplishment while at it. So, is there anything like an ideal place, or an ideal work, or an ideal, ideal work? Maybe not. I wouldn't say talk about an ideal, but of course, the work that somebody does generally, when it is like maybe a spouse, if I'm to use that analogy, the the more the more similar, the better. So also with regard to work, the more it matches with your personality, the better. So that will be your ideal work. So ideal work is very much based on depends on the individual's personality.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Many thanks, Dr. And when we shared about this interview, this discussion, a lot of people shared a question, and maybe I can pose this question to you, is that many professionals, especially at this time, are struggling to balance between work and personal life. So having you on board tonight, Dr. What would you say is the best way to balance and maneuver between your work and your personal life?
Yeah, that's a very good question. It's a struggle in many places and in different professions because, again, if if the idea of balance is ignored, then work itself can harm mental health. So it's important to know. So as much as work has been important, it has been known that as a human being, you need to set aside time for work, and time for leisure, and time for sleep. So previously, it used to be said that it's 8, 8, 8, 8 hours for work, 8 hours for leisure or hobbies, and then 8 hours of sleep. All of that, means that it's a form of occupation. So there's no time that somebody is not occupied. So basically, work-life balance is a question of personal choices, but it's advisable that every human being at least has something they do during the 8 hours when they're not sleeping or working. So it can be a hobby, it can be involvement in charitable activities. And the interesting thing is that all these usually uh, ends up in helping the person with their physical and mental health. In fact, the Japanese have one of the most quoted concepts about work-life balance, which is called ikigai. That for whatever at whatever age you should continue working and you should remain busy for the rest of your life, but that should come with some form of balance. Back to you.
All right, thank you so much, Daktari. Another question that came from the young people. Now, the young people are asking, they feel a lot of pressure to succeed in life, especially from social media platforms. And now it left me wondering, is this a good motivating factor at the place of work to want to succeed just based on the pressure on social media?
Well, I don't have an ideal answer for that. As generations change. The factors right now, factors around social media are a big motivation or demotivation for human behavior. But however, I must say that peer pressure has always existed. Is only that previously perhaps peer pressure was exerted differently. So there was a point in time when peer pressure, for example, could come from even your own family, where uh, your closer relatives or your cousins, if your cousin has more cows than you, then you will feel that you must work harder to also match up. And then peer pressure can also come from neighbors, but a lot of time it comes from people whom you've grown together in the modern times, people whom you went to school together or whom you're in school together, and so forth. I see nothing wrong with getting a bit of motivation and a push from your friends, if that push is based on some sort of reason. I must say it must be reasonable. So it could be a question of, you may want to try out a bit of maybe what they're doing and successful. Maybe you are also interested, and so on. But again, uh, the people who have studied human behavior will also tell you that a lot of times people can succeed wherever they are. So for a balanced human society, people have to specialize and do different things. So there'll be a lawyer, there'll be an engineer, there'll be someone who is doing some work on social media and YouTube, and they're successful. There's never a guarantee that if you do the same thing, you'll succeed. So it's important for people to have that in mind, even the young people, that you can succeed at whatever you do, if you chose it correctly, that it matches your personality. But there's always also a chance to change your profession. It's very common in the West. Someone works as a teacher up to 40 years, then they become a nurse, or the other way around. So there's always that opportunity. But if it is something that matches your personality, and that will be something then you love because it matches your personality, you can excel at it and contribute to the society in a different way from the other person. So the motivation behind professions, that is best is that you are solving a problem in society and not just getting income from it.
All right, Daktari. And also, Daktari, another one is we understand that work can be tough. And one of the things that is characterizing workplaces of late are toxic working environments. Now, someone would want to know, what are some of the red flags that one should identify and know, or what are some of the characteristics of a toxic working environment? And when you identify these characteristics, should you stay with the hope that it's going to get better, or you should leave immediately you notice these red flags that are giving toxic working environment? Briefly, Daktari.
Yeah. So, uh, a bad, unhealthy, let's call it unhealthy work environment, it may not just be toxic in the sense of interpersonal relationships, such as a bad boss. It can also be a dangerous work environment because of the physical space. It can be physically unsafe. Maybe you're working in places where you need some protective gear and you don't have. Maybe the space is very squeezed. It could be too hot where you work, and so on. So these health aspects of the environment, if these aspects are poor, then you'll not enjoy your work. And then you come to the number of hours that you work. If you work for too long, there are these jobs that need you to work in shifts. So you find somebody leaves their home at 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. maybe, and they come back at 11 p.m. and they have to eat and rest a little, and they'll be back at work at maybe 4 a.m. the following day. And these shifts vary, but basically you see that you're working for very long shifts, going to more than 12 hours and so on. That is, such kinds of working hours are not healthy for any human being. Issues around wages. So how are you being paid for, compensated? If it's too low, then you also have challenges, and maybe it could also be that there's no job security. There's a lot of turnover, so you are scared that tomorrow I may go to work and my job will not be there. Again, that's a danger. So all these are extremely important. Or maybe just there 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 are no there's no support, good support, like for health cover and these kinds of things that are important for somebody who is working. Also, that is important. So, and then there'll be the interpersonal issues. So you may have issues where just the boss is mistreating or harassing, or somebody. It may not even be the overall boss. It could be a middle level person in the workplace is harassing the juniors and making the place unbearable. So most workplaces have some policies that guard against harassment at the workplace, be it sexual or physical harassment. There are now policies that are coming up. One way to go about it, in the way I know, because I have a background in trade unionism, so it's very important to have a single voice as workers, because sometimes it may be very difficult as a single worker to confront your employer. So mobilizing yourselves and having some form of an association that speaks on behalf of all of you and addresses some of these issues that are present in many different workplaces can be a very good starting point. And this is part is recognized and established within our constitution in Article 41.
All right. Thank you so much, Daktari. And in under 30 seconds, so that we can let you go, Daktari, tonight, what would you like to see implemented in Kenyan workplaces to better and support mental health, especially among young people, in under 30 seconds?
Yeah, so because I come from mental health, and persons living with mental illnesses are often discriminated, one of the things I would like to see is policies around diversity, equity, and inclusion, so that we have people living with mental disorders deliberately sought for. There are many organizations in Kenya, both working in mental health and others, which should include people with mental illnesses, as a deliberate move that respects human rights, the International Declaration of Human Rights, and so on. And finally,
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Dr. Chitai. I think we lost him on that.